To the study of palm braiding and palm weaving. The video you are about to see describes the book Palm Weaving, the Story and the Art, which was compiled by Franciscan sister, Sister Cecilia Schmitt. Research funded in part by the Minnesota Arts Board. Palm weavers from all over the nation participated in this study, and their work is shown here. The book is divided into two parts. First tells the history of the art, the second demonstrates patterns. The tradition of palm weaving began in the hot, moist tropics where palm trees grow. It was popularized by sailors as they would sell their palm articles for extra income. Two patterns which date back to this time are the weave and the boondoggle. As far as the Catholic Church is concerned, palm weaving was developed on the island of Sicily. From there it spread to Rome and on to Central Europe. When the colonization of the Americas began, pioneers brought with them the art of braiding blessed palms. Today, churches order their palms from Texas and Florida. Palms have always been considered a symbol of power and kingship, as shown here when the Hebrew children waved their palm branches on the first Palm Sunday. Today the palm is a sacramental in the Catholic Church and placed in the home with a prayer for protection from fire, storms, and danger. Unfortunately, this artistic tradition has been lost over the years. Although people still receive palms on Palm Sunday, few craft the palms into beautifully made creations. As the art has become less popular, it has become more specialized. The patterns we present here can be broken down into three techniques: cutting and folding, looping and slitting, or weaving and braiding. Once you have learned these techniques, we will show you how to assemble them into bouquets, corsages, and arraignments. Before we begin our braiding project, let's look at how a palm grows. This is a frond from a palm tree, and it can be divided into 35 to 40 different leaves. Notice the dark outside edge of the palm leaf. You need to remove these sides or the rib before you begin to weave or braid the palm strand. Now that that's removed, you are ready to begin creating beautiful palm artifacts. Sister Cecilia Schmitt begins Chapter 2 on cutting and folding patterns.
Now, A1 pattern is the billboard cards. You simply make a little card like this in the computer and add a little tiny piece of palm. This is an identification card that you can put in your billfold.
The folded ara is used a great deal in making other arrangements. This is how you do it. You simply take a piece of palm, divide it in half, fold that down like that, then fold this down this way, perpendicular. Then this is perpendicular to that. This, you notice how I'm keeping my thumb down there, and this is folded like that. And this is folded like that, and that's all there is to it. You simply keep doing that and folding over and over, and you see it forms this same thing as your folded ara complete. The circular rose is one of the most beautiful patterns. You simply take two strands that are connected at the bottom and fold this down and to the left. Then you fold this one down and to the left, like that. Then you fold this one down and pull it to the front and fold this one to the back, and you see that your rose is forming now. Now you're going to fold this one over here, and you're beginning to have a circle. And you just continue to do that until your rose is finished. It can be made very small and put on a cross, and it could be put into a bouquet. This is a cross punch. You can buy a punch like this in a craft store and put a piece of palm in it, and it will press out punches like this. This is very handy for making stationery or for making identification cards or other small palm pieces.
And we'll be doing the one strand comb. First you take your palm piece and fold it away from you at an angle, and then you fold it toward you, also at an angle, and then the piece that's come around, you fold behind and up through that back loop. So you're actually making a knot. And pull it tight. And then that piece that's sticking up, fold it back towards you and fold it through the loop just behind it. So it doesn't go behind the actual palm itself, but just through the loop behind it, and pull it upward and pull it tight. And then pull it toward you and back through the loop that you've just made. So it's actually one smooth movement. So you're building a cone. We're making a square cross, and you hold two equal sized pieces of palm so that one is pointing down and the other is pointing to your right, and so that the ends are flush. So you've actually made a right angle. And then you fold the one pointing to your right, pull it around in front of you and point it toward the left, and then behind, and again point it to the left. So it's gone around twice. Then you take the one that's pointing down and put it behind so it goes into the loop at the back, and pull it tight. And then pull it forward and again go to the back through the loop and pull it tight. And now you have the two pieces locked together. And then you take the one at the front and go down through that loop that you've made at the back and toward the floor, and then back up again through the same loop, adjusting your loop so you have little extra space there, and you can make two loops on the vertical beam of your cross, either making them both equal size or both a little bit different in size. This one's a little different, and the two on the display model are both the same. And then you work on the one at the back, and that too, you go through the loop that you've made at the back, and you can adjust your loops so that you have one side of your cross, and then bring the strand back through. And here again you can adjust the loop and then go back through that loop a second time with the part that's left over, and a third time, and you have a two-strand cross where the loops are very different sizes. We'll be making the Polish cross, and for this you need two pieces of palm about a ½ inch wide, one 14 inches long, and one 11 inches long. And on the 11-inch long piece, you mark 2½ inches and fold it, and mark 4½ more inches and fold it, and 2½ more inches and fold it, and then you have 3 ½ inch folds. Actually, 2 folds, because the end piece is a ½ inch. And you fold it so that the three ½ inch folds fold on themselves, and then the 2½ inches folds to the left, and the 4½ inches folds behind it, and then the 2½ inches folds inside, so it's behind the ½ inch, the 3 ½ inch folds. And then you take the other ½ inch piece and stick it into the fold, the ½ inch fold in the middle, and just so it comes not through the loop, but just to the end of the palm piece, and then fold it behind and in front again so it goes through. And this is why it's so important to have them all the same ½ inch measure so that it'll go through the loop. And once you fold it through the loop and pull it toward you again, measure 2.5 inches up from the loop and fold downward, and then fold that piece, or bring that piece through the loop. And it'll stop at the place that you folded it, so you have a nice bullish cross. We'll be making the German cross and the folded star, which are both basically the same pattern, except the folded star has 2 sides to it, where the German cross is more flat on one side. And first you interlock 4 equal-sized pieces of palm, both strips quite long, or all 4 strips quite long, but a 1/4 inch wide. And after you've interlocked them, then you take the piece that's pointing north on the right-hand side and twist it so that the front side is facing away from you, and bring it around in a loop, and then turn that front side that was facing away from you again away from you, because when you brought it around in the loop, it's come towards you. So now you want it back away from you again, and you bring the end down through the loop. And doing that, you might lose your loop, which is fine. Just take it out and start again. And it might help to hold the loop in place while you're going down through the loop, just behind it. And pull it through, and you end up with a star point. And what you want to do is make your star point on all 8 strips of palm. So with the canonical star points, you take the piece that is facing down and bring it around, facing upward all the while, and go through the loop. If you can get it through. There you go. And of course, this is a very unfinished piece, but there's your star point. The zigzag stem is really nice for suspending a bird or a fish or a flower from the edge of the rib. And what you do is strip the 2 pieces of palm away from the rib. So you actually have 3 pieces that you're working with here. And you take the first piece of palm and fold it at an angle under itself, including the rib in the fold, so that you're folding at an angle behind the rib, and you fold to the left, to the right. And then you take the second piece of palm, and that too you fold to the right above the rib, so that the rib is in between the 2 pieces of palm. And then that second piece of palm you fold upward at an angle. And then that first piece of palm, which is behind the second piece, you also fold upward at an angle. So you've got them running parallel again with the rib. And then that second piece of palm, the one you folded first, you fold also at an angle, but to the left above the rib. So the rib is getting sandwiched in between each of these folds. And then the first piece of palm, which has gone over the second piece here, you fold also to the left at an angle so that the rib is in between. And you just continue like this until you get to the top of the pieces of palm, and you'll have the rib suspended out the end as it is here, and the palm will be springy, so that when you have a fish or a bird suspended from the end of the rib, it can bounce.
Seal Gerrans of Freeport, Minnesota introduces us to Chapter 3, Looping and Slitting.
What you do is you take your palm. This is probably one of the easiest palm braiding ideas you can incorporate with children. Why don't you take a piece of palm and cut it into about a 5-inch length. And you take a pin and you very carefully slice off the raw, or I would say the hard edges, and you turn out with a very pliable, nice piece of palm. You take your palm piece, you bend it away from you down and you bring it over on top of the other piece of palm. And you take a circle of cardboard and you staple this to your circle. And it's a good idea when you're doing this project that you take and you put a piece of palm like you would on a clock at 12, 6, 3, and 9. And then you fill your other spaces in. And when you're all finished, you can go and put a flower in the center, a picture preferably like a saint or the Sacred Heart. The pin rose is made of the scraps of your palm. You take a piece of palm and with a pin you take off a slice so that it's very narrow and very long. And you can do that and make strips of palm. After you have slitted your palm, you take a common ordinary pin. I like to put a sequin in the bottom. It just gives you a little more of an attractive looking rose. You put your end of your palm right onto your pin. And then when you want it to go the best, it doesn't. And you hold it with your finger, loop your palm, and thread it. Turn it. Your project will automatically turn by itself. And you can loop it again, and you go so that you have woven your whole palm onto your pin, and your finished product will look like this. The wrapped crown is made by using a branch of palm, preferably one that has 2 pieces. Cut one a little bit shorter than the other. Wrap the one into a circle, preferably around maybe once or twice, so that you have just a little bit more body to your palm, and staple the pieces together. You end up with a circle like this. Then you take the other piece of palm and very carefully wrap it around your circle of palm. Go around and around until you have used up your whole piece of palm, like this. You wrap it around and around, and at the end it'll gently weave into your final product. As you have done that, you can take a scissor and slice into your wrapped piece of palm from both sides. This, after your palm dries, will become very much like the crown of thorns. The leaf palm is made by taking 2 pieces of palm that you have taken a scissor and taken the hard edges off of the edge so that you have a nice flexible palm to work with. You start by bending it over and making a loop, holding it between your fingers tightly. You take your other piece of palm, make a loop, and weave it through the first loop, just about like this. Holding it tightly with your fingers, you take your other piece of palm, loop it, and weave it into this piece of palm. Remember, practice makes perfect. The more you do this, keep everything tightly woven. Take it, and you take it, pull it together, loop your palm, push it into this loop. Work it in there because it's going to, then make sure your palm is nice and fresh and moist. Now you have this piece of palm, and you take it, loop it, and weave it into that other loop. And you continue doing that until you have woven and used up all your palm. Remember, you can make beautiful, attractive crosses, circles. The finer you have your leaf cut, the more delicate it is, but it's maybe a little bit harder to work with. Remember, loop and weave.
I'm going to show you the single loop leaf. My name is Kathy Dawson. You have 2 strands. You bring the one over the other to make a loop. And you want to tighten it down a little. And then you'll have one strand going up and one strand pointing down. You bring the strand up and bring the strand that was pointing up through the pocket that's formed and pull it tight. Now the strand that is pointing down comes up, and the strand pointing up comes through the loop created. And you just continue that until you get nearly to the end. Now to make a little decorative bow on the end, you take your one strand and bring it back through the loop that's been tightened up. And you bring it all the way so that you don't see the end of it here. Then this is what will make your little bow. You bring that back and forth, and you can do that 2 or 3 times depending on how long the strand is. It looks nicer if there are 2 or 3 little bow loops. And sometimes you might need to use tweezers to get that worked in there nicely. And then you just snip your end and clip this end, and that will, as it dries, it'll just curl up on its own and it'll look like a little bow then. And that's what it looks like when it's finished.
The butterfly is made by using your piece of palm. You cut 2 pieces of palm, one about 4.5 inches and another about 6 inches. This is going to make the top part of your butterfly. This is going to make the bottom part of your butterfly. What you do is you take, after you have cut your strip of palm, you take a pin and slice off the hard edges. Then you take your finger and hold it, and you, with a pin, you make slices in your palm leaf. Don't go too far because then you're going to cut it off. Just go to about 1/2 inch from the other end, and just keep going until you have laced your whole piece. I have this laced, and then you do the same thing with your long strip. After you have taken and laced it, you bend it down and over. You take a piece of cardboard that has been cut into the shape of a butterfly, and you staple it. Shape it so that it kind of looks like a butterfly, and staple it. That's the top. The bigger one goes on the top. The smaller one is shaped down and over, and that gets on the bottom of your butterfly. And you staple it. You do the same thing over here, the same thing over here. Then you take a piece of palm to cover the whole body, and you staple it down. And to make the curl, the antenna of your butterfly, you take a felt, anything that's round, a pencil. I'm using a colored marker, and you roll. You slit your palm in 2 pieces, and you roll it down till the very bottom. Oops, I missed it. You have to catch it and hold it tightly. There we go. You roll it down, roll it down, roll it down, and you take a pin and pin it. Tomorrow morning, not any later, you take and you let your curl out. Otherwise, it's going to be much too tight. Do the same thing with this one. Practice makes perfect. The more you make, the better they get. The Rosette is a project for the more experienced palm weaver. What I want you to do is you take at least 2 pieces of palm, the same size, okay? Cut off the rough edges with a pin, and then you take a star-shaped mold or a form that you have cut out of a coffee can cover or any kind of a plastic. You want it so that it's flexible, okay? What you do is you put your finger on your palm this way, over this point, and make sure your palm is fresh. You put your finger on it, make a complete circle, wrap it around here, make a complete circle, wrap it around here, make a circle, twisting it counterclockwise, around and around, and you go around so that you have used up the whole strip of palm. And I like to use, you can leave this little end sit here, and you can take another piece of palm and continue with what you've been doing around. I'm going to go quickly. Practice makes perfect. Around and around and around. I'm just about ready here. And around. This is one of my favorite projects. Holding it tightly like this now, you turn it over and very carefully. See the reason for the plastic? You slip this out and then you slip this out and keep holding it tightly here. You slip it out. And now you have all 5 of them. No, now you have all 5 of them out, right? Gently, with holding your project, you'll have a little project that looks like this. Now what I want you to do is take your stapler and staple it, preferably more than once, because this has become a kind of a thick project. Now that you've got it stapled, it's together like this. What you do now is you gently take out your points. One here, one here. You take out all your points from the whole thing. This one and this one. There's only 2 here. Some have 3. All depends on how long your palm is. This one has 3. Okay. It's nice just this way. But what I like to do is you take a scissor and very carefully slice into each one of these more than once. And then as your palm dries, it almost looks like a chrysanthemum. Just very, very attractive and dainty, and it's not a hard project at all. After you have finished, you can put anything you want in the center. A bead, or a button, or a little flower, little picture, and you have what we call a rosette.
We're doing lacing today, and my name is Dolores Hoffman. And as we do this Jacob's ladder, you use a heavy spine that stays standing by itself, and then the next piece of palm will be looser, and with that you take your palm and turn it over in front, and then under in back. And this is supposed to make a ladder. As you see, we're going up this ladder. Always over in front and under in back. Oops. Well, my ladder just slipped a little. But as you do it, you will slide them down. Now, on this one, I left loose. On this one, I pressed it with encyclopedias, so it lays flat.
Now we're going to begin Chapter 4, Weaving and Braiding Patterns. And to show you the first pattern, the square cone, here is Kathy Dawson.
You start with 4 strands, and think of the 4 directions, north, west, south, and east. You take the first strand will be your north strand, and you bring the west strand over the north strand. Then you take the south strand and bring it over the west strand, and the east strand goes over the south and through the north. That makes the base for your square cone. Then you want to tighten them up. You bring, and you start to weave one over the other and bring the fourth through the little pocket that's formed. And you just continue going. One time you will go counterclockwise, and the next round you will be going clockwise. And this is what it looks like after you've got a couple of rounds. And this is what it looks like when you're nearly to the end. And what I like to do when I get to the end is make loops to make a nice finished top of the square cone. And you can bring them back and forth through. Excuse me. And it will actually form a little cross on the very tip then. Sometimes the tweezers works good to work them in. Circular cone. You start the circular cone the same way as you do the square cone. The only thing is, after you get your base done, you start to angle your fronds so that it will come out with 8 sides. And always pull them nice and tight and flatten them down. Notice how you bring it at an angle. That's what will make it come out in a circular shape. And when you're finished, this is what it'll look like after you finish off your little ends with loops. I'm going to show you how to make the curled corner cone. From these, you can make what is called a curled corner cone cross. You start out the very same as when you make the square cone. After you get your base secured, you start making loops and bringing them through the little pockets that you've made. And you just continue around until you get to the very end. And in order to make the curled corner cone cross, you would make several of these and secure them on a piece of cardboard. And this is what it will look like when it's finished. I'm now going to show you how to do the crown of thorns. You start out with one frond that you have split into 4 pieces. You will always have a center piece that you won't be braiding. You'll be braiding over and around it. You start out with your right hand strand and you go under and over and under. And always remember to give it a little twist. And then you go to the left hand strand and you go over and under and over. And then again the right hand strand, give it a little twist, and you go over and under. And you continue on this way, and as you go, if you want them to come out where they're real tight, you have to just keep pulling it tight. And otherwise, if you're making something just for like a decorative effect in a bouquet, you can leave it loose like this is, And if you're going to be making with very fine strands so that it comes out like the crown, and you pull them tight, and then when you get to the end, you want to make little snips right in the strands. And as that dries, they will pop out just like the thorns on the crown of thorns.
I'm doing the woven rose, and my name is Irene Punsack. And what I do is I usually take about 4 leaves of palm, and I'll staple them together on the bottom. And then I break them in half because of the fact that they're usually too big. And then what I do is just work from one side, and then you'll just keep going over and under, until you've got them all woven over to the one side. And then you just keep going, and then you'll just keep going, and then as you work on, you just keep on working and working. And then when you get to the end, then you'll have a product like this, and you just keep working over the top, under, over, and then you'll have it. You just always work from the one side, and then when you're all done, then you take it and you curl it, and it'll form a rose for you. And then that's how it gets to be. When you're all done, you'll have a nice woven rose. The next picture is the picture of the lily and the cornucopia, and they are worked exactly like the rose. And what I do is I take the palms and I leave them whole, and I don't break them in half. And then I'll just keep working the very same way as you do the rose. And as soon as you're done, though, you have to twist it, that you get that twist in there, and then it'll form a cornucopia, and you will have it all a nice big cornucopia and a lily.
which is pictured above, and also the beaver tail braid. In either one, you use 2 pieces of palm. Cross them over as an X to where they look like this. Then you start by bending your bottom one up so it comes together. So you got 2 in the center. Then you will take this top one, front, closest one to you, cross it over, and keep this corner nice and neat right in the center here. And you turn the next one in, and both of the ends. On one end you'll notice you come upward, one end you come down. So I'm bending this one down and this one up. Now up here again I would bend this one up and this one down. And then cross the centers. And as you can see, you're coming off with a neat, my children call it a necktie. Okay, we're going to tell how we make these baskets. You will start by measuring your pieces of palm, and the width of them doesn't make a big difference. If you're making a small basket, you would take a narrow width. If you are making quite a large basket, you'd like a wide crown. You weave them together over and under, over and under, over and under. And the next one, under and over, under and over, under and over, until you have this bottom section of the basket weaved. I always leave the middle section so I can use this as my handle. Now, when you're doing this, I like to work with nice green palm, and the next move would be to turn your ends upward to form your edge of your basket. When you do that, if you take a palm, that's the length of all 4 sides. You can go all the way around. And I like to give them a bend so that it has a natural corner, so that when I'm weaving in and out, again, just the same as you do down below, you have your natural corner. I also would measure over till the next corner and bend that, so that I would have my corners right in place when I get there. When you get up to this high on the basket. My trick is clothespins. This kind of clothespins. This is a clip style clothespin. And my basket will have these all the way around. And then I come with my weaving in. First, all the right-handed, and you could call that whip stitch or over and over lacing. When you get it all done one way, you will put another one in. I usually join right at the handles, and then I start weaving back over the top so that it crosses over. I like to have a cross or a V. And the clothespins will hold it in place. If you find you come to an end and you do not have it woven in, clip a clothespin over it. By the time that's dry, it will stay. Okay, this time we're doing the candle. And with the candle, you'll take 6 prongs of palm, and you start with 3. And you start braiding them in your normal way, over and under, over and under. And when you got them together, that's where I use my clothespins. And I go to the other side and do my 3. Over, under, over, and under. Now, with what's from the end of the opposite side, I will now come under and over to bring that side around to this side. When I get to where I need it, I'll use another clothespin. I'll try to, here we go, the other side. We come around from this side and we will go under and over. It always takes a bit of looking to where we start to get our design together here. I'll slip this clothespin on, and it gives me just a little time to look on the other side and get things leveled off. Okay. Here we can go under and over. And we'll set our clothespin on the next. We go around to the other side again and get these ends that will go under and over. Here's another one that can go under and over. And as long as you're working with 6 prongs, it will always come out. You'll never have to go over 2 or under 2. Then you'll take the 2 sides and cross those. And when you get up far enough and get enough fingers, you will be able to do this without holding on like I am. As it holds its shape, you will work to hold them together to where they turn into a nice round. Okay, this is called a circular band weaving. And with this, you'll start with 4 strands, and you will turn the one side up and one side down. Then you'll turn. Each time, the turn comes out the same, and you twist the center, as you can see. I'm doing one up and one down. Now this one will go down, and this one will go up. And down and up. Always crossing over those 2 in the center. Down and up and across. Down, up, and across. Always just crossing the one in the center. Now this can be laid flat and pressed flat, or it can be left in its natural form to where it just will form its circle like it has done here. And we're doing the bowl. The bowl is made by weaving a bottom section of the bowl, and actually I would be weaving it right out to the end where I'm doing a bowl. This then I soaked in water, put it in a cake pan. Once it was wet, I could stitch around the edges. While I stitched around the edges, I keep my clothespins on to hold it nice and square, as you can see. And once I had stitched around the edges, then I take my scissors and clip these off to where they're just even. Because it has been sewed with the sewing machine, it is nice and firm. I put it between 2 cereal bowls, pressed them together, and weighted it with some encyclopedias for overnight. It was dry by the time I put on, and this is just a common three braid, a three strand braid that I glued on with wood glue. It's because that's what I had on hand. The wood glue seems to hold fine.
This is the dove, and I am Stanley Musilevich. The dove is a simple weave done with two pieces like this that are split into four. Now, I take a pair, get them together, get them split so that they're nice and equal. Then you take them, and they're always being held just like this, with the uncut part towards you and the cut ends this way and crossing in front of you. You start with one of them and you weave it perpendicular over the top of the other three, and then the other one gets woven opposite of them two over them. And they're all done nice and square to each other or perpendicular. Then you take the other one and do it the same way, except that it has to be opposite. Where this one, the first one you did, came out over the top, this one has to come out on the bottom. So it's bottom, top, bottom. So I'll start by going underneath, over and under, like that, and then the one next to it woven just like that, under and over. Then you take the two halves and weave them together with the wings in your hands and the cut pieces away from you. And if they're opposite, they'll weave together perfectly. If they're not opposite, you'll have trouble getting them over, under, over, under. As you can see, over, under, it works in just perfectly. And then do the same with the upper part. Over, under, over, under. And that's the start of the bird, just like that, the wings and the other parts of the body. Then I lay that down on the surface and bring the ones to the top over the top this way. They have to be woven together. These four right here have to be woven together. Now it's important that you start this out right. You must start with these very upper two crossed when you get to this stage, so that they stay crossed. If you do them the other way, they're starting to pull apart, but if you have them crossed, they will not pull apart. And then as long as that one's on the top, that means this one goes underneath for that one, and this one comes and goes under and over. So I've got a little weave of four right there. Then what I do is just pin that down with my hand and bring up the bottom four and do the same thing with them, making sure that I start with the first two being crossed so that they won't pull apart, and then just weave them four together. Now I've got two here, those four get woven together next, and if you've done everything right, everything will be just perfect. It'll be opposites. So I weave that one next to it, and then over and under, and that one. So everything is over, under so far. Very simple. Now I still have these four pointing this way, these up here, these two here, that need to be woven together on this side of the bird. And that needs to go under, over and under, and those four are woven together. So the body is starting to take shape. This is the underside of the bird, the belly of the bird. Now these two and these two are the four upper ones. They all come through this opening right here and get tied together to become the head. And these two and these two come through this opening down here and become the tail of the bird. Now at this point, the only thing you need to remember is that you need to see where you're at in your weave. This one has gone underneath, so it needs to go over this one and then under this one and come through this opening right here. And this one is going over this one, so it goes underneath both of them and comes out that same opening. And to get the other two done for the head, this is going over this one, so it needs to go under those two and come out that same opening. And this is going under this one, so it needs to go over the top of this one and then under that one to come out that same opening for the head. Now all the four for the head are through that opening. I need to do the same for the tail section. All the weaving part is done. You just need to take this and start pulling it tight. Pull them tight. Mostly one by one. I need to get them just a little tighter. I left it real nice and loose so you could see what was going on. Start pulling them together one at a time. Start by pulling them and then take them one at a time from this section and pull it tight. Now these four are the head. You need to make an overhand knot for this. So you start out by going underneath the neck, up and over, and out, and make your head. And leave any length neck you want. I like leaving a fairly nice long neck. Start by pinching it about where I want it for length. Pull it tight. There's my neck and my head. Take a scissors, and I trim a beak in this direction. I think it looks the most like a head and a beak when you trim it that way rather than the other way. Take the tail, pull them together, trim them off all to one length, and then pull the wings together, get them nice and even. Hold them, and I like trimming them just in this fashion there. And that's the dove of peace, or the bird.
The fish. I'm Sister Mary Lou Eltgrowth, Little Falls Franciscan, and I'm going to show you how to do the ribbon fish. You can do palm fish, but I'm going to work with ribbon because it's easier to see for the demonstration. You start out with 2 pieces of ribbon about 18 to 20 inches long and between 1/4 and 1/2 inch wide. I start with taking one of the ribbons, winding it around my fingers 2 times, getting the end even, and then holding it down with my 2 bottom fingers. Then it's an over-under. I start under and go over, go around to the back of my hand. I'm over, so I need to go under and over. Bring my ribbon around and be sure that it comes under the first piece that I started with. This time I go over, under, over, and under. And if it's been weaved correctly, when you slide it off your fingers, it stays together. Now I have 4 ends, and I'm going to number them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. For the next part, I need to lay it on the flat surface. Take ribbon 2, bend it down, put it so it's over 3 and under 4. Take ribbon 3, just put it through the loop that you just made and put it over 1. Now take ribbon 1, loop it through that same loop and slide it under itself. Then the 4th one is a little tricky. Just slide it so it fits under 3, through loop 2, over the top, and through loop 3 and over itself, so that when I pull it together, put all 4 ends together and tighten it up so that you get a nice little fat body. And this is your nose end. And again, I just pinch that to keep it in shape. Then the last part is to cut off, and you can cut off the fin parts however long you want them to be. Then I'll take two of my cut off leftover tails, cut them, and I usually do a V. And then slide them in to the fish, just slide them in the back part, and then I put a little glue on them so they stay in. Put one on each side. Then in order to finish up my fish, I can glue eyes on, either sequin eyes or the movable eyes, and I'm finished with my fish. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for being with us during this tape. We have enjoyed making this tape, and we hope that you enjoy using it. God bless you.